Good morning. It is a rainy day here in Dallas, but everything's turning green, so it's pretty and lovely. No more dead grass. Yay! Okay, so it is day 4 of our talk about how past trauma impacts your work and your personal life. So today we're going to talk about, are your relationships reflecting your wounds or your healing? So welcome back, and it's time to dive in deep. So if you have been with me this week, we've talked about how trauma fuels overachievement and burnout. We've talked about how emotional triggers can show up at work. And we've also talked about how to recognize these patterns being the first step towards healing. But today, we're getting personal. We're talking about how unhealed trauma affects our relationships. And I mean all relationships. Your partner, your spouse, your kids, your friends, and even your coworkers or clients. Have you ever found yourself over apologizing or people pleasing? Have you ever struggled to set boundaries because you're afraid of rejection? Have you ever felt disconnected in your closest relationships, even though you want to be close to them? So these aren't personality traits. These are trauma patterns playing out in your relationships. The 3 most common trauma patterns in relationships are a fear of abandonment, and so we need to work on overcoming. We need to work on overgiving or people pleasing, because those things come out of a fear of abandonment. A lack of boundaries can lead to overcommitting or completely avoiding conflict at all costs. If boundaries were punished or ignored in your past, you may now struggle to say no, avoid conflict, or you feel guilty for protecting your peace. Another sign is emotional unavailability, which leads to building walls instead of bridges. So if you are vulnerable, if vulnerable wasn't safe for you when you were growing up, you may now push people away emotionally to avoid deep connections to protect yourself. So it becomes a protective mechanism. So one of my clients, she struggles with saying no, both at work and in her personal life. She realized that this pattern started in childhood when setting boundaries led to emotional neglect. Once she was able to name the pattern, she was able to trust in herself and start setting boundaries with grace, with herself in mind. So let's break down how to break the cycle. Step 1 is recognizing your pattern. Hi, Hector. Good morning. Awareness is always the first step. Notice the moments when you're overgiving, over apologizing, or shutting down. So that's step 1. Recognize your patterns. Step 2 is name what you need. So ask yourself, what am I trying to protect or avoid? By naming the need behind the behavior, this helps you to shift it, right? It helps you to shift the behavior and help you get what you're actually needing. So name what you need. Step 3 is start small with new boundaries. You don't have to overhaul your relationships overnight. Start small. Doable shifts that teach your nervous system that boundaries can be safe. I always tell my clients, start with one small boundary. One small boundary. It doesn't have to be huge, doesn't have to be overwhelming. Just choose one small boundary. And it slowly starts to tell your mind that boundaries are okay. Boundaries are safe. Boundaries are what I need. And hello, Mr. Mel. Sorry, guys. Okay, so here's the truth. Trauma doesn't have to define your relationships. You get to choose healing. And when you do, you invite others to experience a healthier, more authentic version of yourself. And that's what we all want. I talked about this in the podcast this week with my friend Terry. When you aren't your true, authentic self, people can't get to know your true, authentic self. And when we aren't saying no, when we are over-committing, when we are people-pleasing, people aren't getting to know the real us because we're not showing them the real us. Boundaries allows people, a boundary allows people to know what your true boundaries are. They allow people to get to know you. So then they know the healthier, more authentic version of you. Okay, so which of these patterns resonated with you most? Drop a heart in the comments if this spoke to you, or DM me the word relationship if you're ready to break these cycles. Tomorrow, we're wrapping up this series by talking about how trauma can actually fuel growth and purpose. You're not going to want to miss it. And until tomorrow, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful Friday. I hope your weekend is filled with joy. So, bye.